Between 2000 and 2013, commercial banks in Nigeria lost about 159 billion naira to electronic fraud and cybercrime. Now, according to the country's central bank, bank customers also lost about 6 billion naira to e-fraud. Experts say while there's been a steady growth in the usage of e-payment channels, cybercrime has also been rising and could hit $6 trillion globally by the year 2021. David Isiavwe, President, Information Security Society of Africa, joins us to discuss this. David, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
When the numbers are staggering, and I was just looking at the report, Q3 report by the MBS on the usage of e-channels, and there's been a significant growth, and it appears that this growth is steady. But on the other hand, we're still haven't seen a growth in cybercrime. So I'm just thinking, how bad is the situation? Paint a picture for us. How bad is it right now?
Thank you very much. Now, what we seem to have is a significant movement of transactions from the manual space into cyberspace as electronic platforms. For instance, looking at the numbers that were released by the Bureau of Statistics, for the third quarter, we find out that the NIPs, that is NIPS instant payments, a total of 9.9 trillion, 9.59 trillion transactions were done in just the third quarter alone. And that was from about 39 million transactions. And then the NEFT transactions, that's the National Electronic Funds transfers, were 5.5 trillion naira from about 10 million transactions. And then we have ATMs of 1.2 trillion naira moved onto the cyberspace, or the electronic space, from 157 million transactions. So the numbers are humongous. We have mobile transactions, 223 billion naira that were done in just one quarter from approximately 10 million transactions. And then POS and internet, 190 billion and 30.7 billion naira, respectively, etc. So these numbers that we have mentioned, they are huge numbers. What do the fraudsters do? The fraudsters follow the money. So they've seen that there's no need to go and hire a bullion van with bombs to attack, movement of cash, when they can easily do the fraud.
Do it online.
Online, and that's where huge amounts are. So what we're beginning to see, therefore, is that even the effort required to carry out the crime is very minimal. So the area of cybercrime has turned upside down basic principles of finance. In those days, finance students are taught that high risk leads to high rewards. Now, with cybercrime, what you have is very low risk leading to extremely high rewards. Okay,
so we just, a basic computer and access to internet and being able to clone
for those who
don't
even have access to the computers, the telephones. All you need is just a phone with internet connection. So the barriers to entry are very limited, it's very small. Just the cost of a phone that has internet connection. And then to complicate the issue, we have the tools that can be used to carry out some of these frauds electronically. They are available very cheap online. Some are even free. And so people don't even need skills anymore to carry out these frauds.
Okay.
Yes.
You've painted a bleak picture, but let's talk about who is responsible, in terms of ensuring that this is brought to at least the barest minimum. Because like you said, barriers to entry are quite easy.
Correct.
So the regulators, who should be at the doorstep?
We have a number of agencies that are responsible. For instance, the Nigerian Police, the EFCC, the Central Bank of Nigeria, through the Bankers Committee, and through the Nigerian Electronics Fraud Forum, otherwise known as NEF. And then we have other organizations like ISAN, for instance. And then you have the Committee of Chief Audit Executives of Banks.
But would you say they've been effective in...
They all manage the fraud desks in the different banks.
But would you say they've been effective? Because we've often said that it would appear that these cyber criminals often appear to be one step ahead of the authorities.
That may be correct, i.e. cyber criminals may be one step ahead, but the different agencies and organizations are also ensuring that their activities are being frustrated to a large extent. Now, why do I say that? Look at the humongous numbers that we have mentioned, 9.59 trillion transactions, just from NIP. However, what we have seen, what those numbers did not show, is that the frauds are increasing, the attempts are increasing. but the success rate is reducing.
Okay.
So while we are seeing a lot of attempts at fraud in cyberspace, the actual success of those frauds is actually dropping significantly.
Okay, now you're with Union Bank also, and
Yes.
you also, I mean, it's also part of what you do.
Correct.
I mean, how well protected are banks? Because, I mean, for viewers watching, and like you said, with these numbers from the MBS, more than ever, now more than ever, more people are exposed to this cybercrime. How bad is it for banks, and how well are you protected?
What I can tell you categorically is that banks invest heavily in cybersecurity protection mechanisms and devices. Banks protect from the periphery, the endpoints, the end users, those mobile devices that connect to their systems. They have firewalls, they have IPSs as intrusion prevention devices, and then they have intrusion detection devices as well.
But some people still slip through those cracks. Yes, I mean, in terms of percentage.
What you will find is that, for instance, to do a transaction online, the central bank has come up with standards that must be met. Okay? And the banks have no choice but to meet up with those standards. Therefore, if I want to do a transaction, for instance, online, I have a token. That token generates for me dynamic passwords. So we call it two-factor authentication, i.e., for any transaction to be successfully done, the transaction will require what you know and what you have. So even if the fraudsters are able to take your PIN through whatever means, the token is with you. That dynamic PIN or password that it generates, you alone have access to it. So they can't access that. That's one. That's why I can tell you that the bank systems are safe. Also, banks use encryption. With encryption, even if the fraudsters steal your information, and what they look at is garbage, they can't decrypt it because they do not have the decryption keys. When that happens, then it means the data is safe and secure.
That is good to know and reassuring. But let's talk about those who, despite all of this, still fall victim to cybercrime via emails. Bank websites are cloned. They send emails. A certain amount, X amount has been deducted for your account. Please go to this, follow this link, and then, you know, and so on and so forth as it happens. And you said earlier that when we were talking before the show started that despite that, you still see a large number of people falling victim. The tricks are not exactly, you know, different from, you know, that they employ. I'm talking about the cyber criminals. So what would you say? Is it awareness? Is it education level? What is it? Why do people in large numbers still fall victim despite the awareness level? Is it the awareness level that's a problem?
People fall victim because of two things principally. The first one is lack of awareness. The second one is the greed factor in human beings. Sometimes when they are called or when they receive those messages, they are promised certain benefits. Somebody that does not know you is sending you an email and telling you that there's a box of dollars to be collected somewhere. All you need to do is log on to this website and provide certain information. And by the way, they need your bank account so that they can pass the money in, and you must not tell anybody. Those are the kinds of messages. I received one just yesterday. Okay? And people go and click on those kinds of messages. No. What we are not saying in ISAN is when you receive those kinds of messages, delete them, ignore them. Do not click on the URLs. When you do that...
Well, do not panic, because I know panic is a large part of the story.
Do not panic. Even if a customer receives an email that says, we have debited your account for a small amount, 5,000 naira, because of a monthly newsletter. That's another strategy fraudsters use. We've debited you for 5,000 naira. And this is, but if you don't want it, please go to this link. No, you delete that message. Okay. Worst case scenario, call your bank. Okay. And also, sometimes some of these fraudsters, they call customers and introduce themselves and say they are calling from XYZ Bank and that they are upgrading the system, and so they want them to take out their tokens and press and give them the PIN. Anybody that receives that kind of call should immediately discontinue that conversation. Okay. Cut the call. David, because it is 99.99%
not true.
Not correct.
I wish we had more time, but we're going to have to leave it there. But it's been very insightful, very educative. Thank you so much, David, for being here today, sharing all of that with us here today. David Isiavwe, President, Information Security Society of Africa, talking about cybercrime in Nigeria, especially in Nigeria, and what the authorities are doing to curb it.